like to just first say thank you to Mr. Schuster and the journalism class and everybody that is here. This has been a very fun election, and me and Colin are very good friends, and we've had a great time doing this. That being said, my fellow Americans, we are at a defining point in our nation's history. We are at a war in other parts of the world. Our economy is starting to go into shambles. Hardworking families are feeling this burden. Small businesses cannot grow. Now, we are all still students here at this great school, so we cannot physically go out and change these things right now. But our generation will be the next ones in Washington and the next ones in the State House. We will be the next change in this great country. That being said, I want to be that change here at this school as your governor of all of Ames. So every single day when you walk in this school, you see that flag, you know that your freedom of speech is protected by me, your governor, so that you can put your ideas out there without fear of discrimination from others that disagree with you. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Colin Greene. I'm your candidate for governor of all of Ames. Over my 4 years at this school, I've developed a real love for this school, and I want to do everything I can to make it a better place. And I'm going to need your help for that. So as a school, we need to unite to face the pressing issues in our country. One of those pressing issues is the environment. If we don't come together and really start to fix this environment, this school won't be around for our generations, and the State House won't be around for our generation to really make change in this country. So with your vote, I hope to make some difference. Thank you.
All right, the first topic that we will talk about today is abortion.
Okay, so do you think it's fair that the choice of abortion should go back to the states and not be handled at a federal level, as Donald Trump has suggested?
Well, I think the issue of abortion is a really personal topic, and it's a tough topic to talk about. I think that it's more of a conversation between a woman and her doctor, and that's an issue that needs to be taken care of between the two of them. And I think it should be not a federal argument, but it should be a state argument, because things are different in each state, and you can't be expected for things to be the same in each state.
So, personally, I think I disagree with Colin on that. I'd say that I will admit that personally I am pro-life. With that being said, Roe v. Wade is the law of the land. And I think that government should protect women's privacy and their right to safe health care, so that in the event they do have an abortion, which is a very personal decision, they can go forward with that measure in a safe way that does not put harm to themselves or anybody else in their family. So that being said, I think that with Roe v. Wade having first and second trimester abortions available, that is the safest way forward right now for our country.
Follow-up question goes to Will first.
What is your stance on fathers' rights regarding abortion? Do you believe that the father of a baby should have a say whether the baby is carried to term, even if it is against the wishes of the mother?
See, that's a very difficult question, because obviously every single relationship is very different in terms of the mother and the father. I think that the father definitely should have a say somewhat, but at the end of the day, it is the woman's decision, because she's the one carrying the baby. So I think that ultimately, I hope that the mother and father are going to be on the same page when it comes to such a tough decision. But I ultimately do think in the end that the woman has the right to terminate her pregnancy.
I actually agree with Will. I think that it's a really tough decision, and the woman, it's her body, and she's the one that's going to have to go through everything. So ultimately, it should be her final decision. I don't think that the father should have no say, but I think that he should have a limited say compared to the mother.
Okay, thank you. The next topic will be the economy.
13.5% of Americans live in poverty in 2015. Do either of you plan to help lower this percentage and assist these Americans in getting back on their feet?
Yes, I think that poverty, unfortunately, is a very big problem in our country. Like I said before, in my economic plan, which is on our website, we want to lower taxes on small businesses so they can grow and hire more people. That being said, one of the things I think we can also do to further our citizens and educate them more and get them into better jobs is go through prison reform, get rid of mandatory minimums, clear out our prisons, and set up systems so that when people get out of prison, they can go out into the workforce and be contributive to society.
I think the important thing here is to fix the tax system. I think we need to get the tax system into two brackets. One bracket for the lower 99% and another bracket for the highest 1%, because as of right now, the highest 1% in America holds 38% of our country's wealth. So with that being said, I think that needs to be changed.
So, follow up for Colin. Although you believe minimum wage is supposed to support families, this is the reality for some people. So if you do want to keep the minimum wage at that level, do you plan on establishing any government programs to assist them?
Well, the minimum wage, I think, should be a state-by-state regulation, because it's different in every state. So minimum wage in one state could be very different from minimum wage in another for what you need to really take care of yourself. And also, 50% of minimum wage jobs in our country are held by college students and high school students. So it's clearly it's a part-time job. And also, I think an important thing to do is to increase vocational schools. So for those of the people in minimum wage jobs who want to get a better job can go to vocational schools and acquire the skills and knowledge they need to improve the world.
All right, so just one thing to address that Mr. Greene just said. He talked about how the upper 1% of American population holds all the wealth right now. Now, currently, if you look at the tax bracket for the upper 1%, it is around 40 to 50% of people's incomes is taken by the federal government to go into programs such as welfare that are abused by fraud. So I personally believe that we should lower these tax rates. I'm not saying I'm against a progressive tax rate. I think that if you're in the 20 to 25%, that's very tangible. But I think that we should let people to keep their money in that sense.
Thank you, guys. Next up will be immigration.
More than 4.4 million people in the U.S. are on the legal immigration visa waiting list, and since that last year, over 100,000 people have been added onto this list. This is obviously a problem for the American people and discourages those who are legal to become legal immigrants. How are you planning to deal with these people?
Well, for those immigrants that are already in the country, I think we need to create a safer and easier road to amnesty. I think it's too difficult. That's why there are so many people on the waiting list. And with that, we also need to strengthen the border so there are less illegal immigrants in our country. Because the country was built on immigration, so to turn away an immigrant would be to turn away our whole country's history. With that being said, I think that the road to amnesty needs to be easier for immigrants.
So that being said, I definitely agree with my fellow candidate here. The road to amnesty is very tough right now. Some people wait up to 10 years to become citizens of the United States of America. And I don't think that the 12 million people that are here that are illegally here should be deported. I think that they're contributing to society. We should work, just as they contribute to us, we should help them out in the sense that we should give them an easier path to citizenship.
Follow-up question. Seeing that the American government is already $19.5 trillion in debt, do you believe that there are other topics that are worth more changing due to the fact that the changes in our immigration laws as well as the borders have a great cost on the taxpayers that America generally doesn't really have money for?
Yeah, so obviously the debt in our country is a very big issue. Being trillions of dollars in debt is an economic burden that is very hard for us. That being said, I think there are a few things we can definitely focus on. Like I just said, prison reform, get rid of mandatory minimums. We have way too many people in our prisons right now. We should also cut healthcare and military spending around 5% each. Our campaign came up with that number. That would get us around $50 million in revenue. Obviously, that's not a lot, but that's better than what we have right now. And also, I think we should, if we push for the abolishment of the death penalty, if you look at how much money is spent on people that sit in death row every single year, I think having all that money would give us a bigger budget to focus more on strengthening our borders and keeping our country safe.
Similar to what Will said, also the price of deportation is really up there. So I think that if we switch all the deportation we have and put it towards a road to amnesty for the immigrants in our country, we can save money there and also put that money toward strengthening our borders. And also the immigrants that go through the path to amnesty, now they're going to be tax-paying citizens. So that's going to improve our economy as well.
Very good, thank you. The next mini topic we'll discuss is marijuana reform.
Now that marijuana has been legalized in our home state, Massachusetts, do you believe the age for legal use should stay at 21 or move to 18? How would you regulate it?
I do believe we should say 21 just as the drinking age is. I don't think it makes sense to have all these age differences. As we know as well, the tobacco age just got moved to 21. Whether or not people agree or disagree with that, I think it's nice to have just one age where everything becomes legal. I think that the state legalizing marijuana is a step in the right direction. Like I said before, we just have to make sure that once it is legalized, that is used safely by our citizens and does not put other citizens in harm's way by people that are using it.
I also agree with Will. I think that the legalization of marijuana is a step in the right direction. It's good for the economy, and it's been voted in, so it's popular. Colorado generated $63 million in tax revenue, so the effects on the economy are limitless. So I think that once it's taxed and regulated and made safe for the environment, it's going to be really good for our country.
If marijuana is legal and someone is pulled over under the influence, how would you guys check to see if the driver has been smoking?
Well, I think that more research, now that it's been legalized, there has to be more research put into figuring out whether a person has been smoking marijuana or not. Right now, there is no test that can really tell if a person has been in the past, like the time where they've been driving. So I think that now that it's been legalized, we can put more research towards it and make it safer so we can regulate that.
You see, this is my issue with the legalization of marijuana. Like I said, it's a step in the right direction. Just last year, a state trooper got killed in Massachusetts because somebody was driving so high they didn't even know what side of the road they were on. That state trooper had a wife and 2 kids. Now I think that if you look at Israel, they are one of the forefront leaders in technology and coming up with a test that will be accessible to the public. So I think, like I said on our platform, decriminalize, then legalize.
Very good, thank you. Next topic will be education.
College is becoming more expensive. People are finding it tougher to liberate themselves from student debt as they try to get a college degree. How do you plan to lower or make college more affordable for students?
Well, with the private universities, there's little you can do because technically it's a private company and it can't be as closely regulated by the country as the state colleges. I think the state colleges need to be lowered because they're state colleges. And if a person is living in the state, they should get in-state tuition, obviously. And just the prices should be lowered for students. But there's really nothing we can do about the universities.
Well, in response to that, I think there is something we can do about private universities. You see, our economy thrives on competition, as it is a very capitalistic market. So that being said, I think if we provide incentives for state college to become cheaper, just as Colin said, I think that private colleges will adjust as well. Like I said before in the press conference, if we work to give scholarships out based on academic performance, I think that it would incentivize more kids to do well in school, and then we would send more kids off to college, and we'd have a much stronger workforce then.
Follow-up for Will. Common Core is our current national system that only about 46 states follow, and it dictates what schools teach in subjects as mathematics and language arts. Do you think this should be removed, and why?
I do think that Common Core should be removed or at least revised. I think that if you look at a lot of these states, obviously state by state education is completely different. Massachusetts public schools are some of the best public schools in the country. I know every single teacher in that room is very proud of that. Now that being said, I think that school systems that have to follow Common Core, that like Massachusetts that have very good public schools, I think that it can hinder their ability to put STEM programs in place that can really advance kids' education and really give them real life skills that are going to be very applicable in the near future, especially with all the technology fields opening up right now in the economy. So I think that we should definitely repeal or replace Common Core.
I agree with Will. I think that Common Core is not good for our country. The schools in each state are just vastly different. You can't compare one state to another. Also, I think we need to put more emphasis on civics education so we can get more of that in the future generations.
Very good. Last topic will be gun laws.
79% of guns used in mass shootings were purchased legally. Along with that, there were no cases where an armed civilian fired back. Would you say the guns are more likely to be purchased for attack rather than defense?
I think that's Will, 60 seconds.
I would disagree with that. I think just like any other thing, I think that 1 or 2 bad decisions from a couple people can ruin the whole entire bunch. I think that growing up around firearms and as an avid hunter and outdoorsman, there are a large majority of people that use firearms for good use. That being said, there are regulations we can push for at a state and federal level so that we can make sure that firearms do not fall into the right hands. But that being said, I don't think we should push legislature forward that strictly prohibits Second Amendment rights, because the Founding Fathers gave us the right to keep and bear arms. I think that's something that's very important, especially with all the dangers that we face today in the 21st century.
I agree with Will. The Second Amendment is a right that every citizen in this country has. So to repeal that would be against the Constitution. I also think that as long as there's less automatic weapons in the country, it's going to be a lot better for civilians.
All right, follow-up question. The Brady Handgun Violence Prevention Act already requires licensed gun dealers to perform background checks on customers. However, private dealers are not required. How will you control the black market of firearms?
Well, I think that with the Brady law, they should put in more emphasis on private dealers, because there's no way you can really know if guns are being passed hand to hand to in private parties. There's no way we can tell whether these people are safe, like if they're stable people to own firearms, and so I think that needs to be fixed.
In response to that, I think that a lot of these private practices and a lot of these private gun dealers actually go to gun shows, and that's where they do a lot of their sales. So that being said, actually when I was at Boys Nation in Washington, D.C., one of my counselors was a former NRA lobbyist. As we all know, the NRA is very, very pro-gun. But I gave him the idea of what if we required people upon entering a gun show to show their identification, whether it be a license to carry or an FID. I think that would make sure that the people going to gun shows and buying guns are doing transactions right, and they're doing it in a way that's safe.
Very good. Each of you will now have 60 seconds to close. Colin, you can go first.
After today's debate, I hope I've convinced you who the better candidate is running for this campaign. With your vote, I hope that we can bring this school together and really make some positive change in our school. Thank you very much.
I'd just like to thank everybody again for coming today. This was very fun. Me and Colin are good friends. That being said, like I said before, I believe I'm the people's candidate for the governor of all of our Ames. I've worked in Washington, D.C. at Boys Nation and at Boys State. I've won numerous elections before. So I just want to continue to represent this great school that's welcomed me so greatly in the last 4 years and move forward in our senior year especially, so that we can have a very productive conversation and go out into the real world and make a change. Thank you.